We're good. All right. Welcome to the LodgeMaster for New Users course. I'm Chad Blanchard. I serve as the LodgeMaster project lead. With me today is Mike Card. He serves as our project advisor. Also on our team, we have Robert Anstedt, our development lead, who's currently teaching a app development class. We have Mike Gaffney, who serves as our support lead. We also have Dave Miller on our support team, who's here with us today. You've probably got an email from him. He answers a lot of our tickets for us and manages our support queue so we can work on the project. So we're very grateful to have Dave on the team. So we're going to dive in to some project history before we go into the demo. So a little bit about LodgeMaster. The LodgeMaster project development began in 2004, and at the 2006 NOAC, they announced the project. Then in 2007, about a year later, version 1 of LodgeMaster was released. Since version 1 being released in January of 2007, we've had 58 releases since, 2 major code rewrites, and all 278 lodges across the country are using LodgeMaster in some capacity. The 2 major code rewrites, one, the most recent, version 4.0, occurred in April of this year. And version 3 was in 2012, Mike? 2012 for 2003. So we've come a long way since version 1. So in the past, we didn't have any portals or self-service access. The client was built on Silverlight, a technology that is no longer, it's still supported by Microsoft, but support is ending. There's limited browser support. Browsers have dropped support. For Silverlight, we were really down to 2, Safari and Internet Explorer. And there was no advanced filtering. The reporting was pretty stale. Development, we weren't adding anything new to LodgeMaster. We fixed the bugs that occasionally came up, but no active development was being done. So the decision was made in 2015 to start working on development of a new platform. So since then, we have released version 4 of LodgeMaster, completely web-based HTML and JavaScript platform with a redesigned user interface, new offline client, online and offline client functionality. It works in any modern web browser, on any device, any operating system, anything that has a modern graphical web browser, tablets, desktops, phones. This new platform of being web-based with HTML and JavaScript allows for easier development. It's hard to find Silverlight developers because the platform, Silverlight's not being used anymore. So by using HTML and JavaScript, we're able to find developers a lot easier because it's a more common development platform. So it's going to allow us forward to add some new things to LodgeMaster. New features in version 4 from version 3. We have a new account management system called ArrowID. You use that to register for NOAC. It's now the OA's single sign-on platform. So you'll use one account to sign into all or to the Arrow online services. We have new member and event grids. We have new email functionality with HTML emails, send statistics, read statistics, better editors, just better handling of email in the system overall. We have a new reporting module and reporting platform in version 4. Allows for exporting of reports and some additional reporting options for us. So we're really excited about version 4. It's a major rewrite. Interface is completely different. Using it on mobile, I think, is really great. So this is why everybody's probably here, is to dive into a demonstration of LodgeMaster. So I'm going to switch over. I'm going to get out of this. We're going to move that over here. All right. So to get into LodgeMaster, you can go to lodgemaster.oa-bsa.org. This is the link you'll want to bookmark now. In the old, you probably had a bookmark for the client itself. Since we're doing single sign-on, the best page is to bookmark this and then click on Online Lodge Client. This is going to take you to the ArrowID sign-in page. This looks familiar since you're all here. You'll hit Sign In and sign in with your ArrowID. Now, yours is going to look a little bit different than ours for demo purposes, but you will see a lodge listed here. It'll be your council number and your lodge. I have an arrow. You'll click on that to enter your lodge. if you had a version 3 account, you have to claim your account. You'll hit the Manage Lodges, hit I have an OEM3 account, add it. For demo purposes, I'm going to hop into one of our test databases that we have, and we'll go ahead and get right in here and get started. All right, so this, when you log into LodgeMaster, it takes you to our new dashboard. It's very similar to version 3, but we do have plans to change this and add some functionality. We're going to add status updates here in the news section, so that when LodgeMaster is be down for scheduled maintenance, or if something's down, hopefully that never happens, but if something were to go down, it'll show up here. There'll be a thing so you can toggle for status, so you can see our system status, all our server statuses. The member statistics over here, this is a new, we had statistics before, but we've added a year to it, so you can compare where you're at, this year to last year. That should help you a little bit with your JTE and just knowing where you're at compared to your previous years. So during this course today, we're going to pretend we're a Lodge membership chair, and we're gonna run somebody through the system, start to finish. We're gonna add them and move them to an event. But to get started, we're actually gonna go backwards a little bit. We're gonna start in users, because without users, you can't get into the system. And so our new user management, we no longer add users. In version 3, we added users to the database, added an account. Now we just invite them. So if you want to add somebody to LodgeMaster, you hit invite. You search for their name. Find them. If they have an email on their profile, it'll pull it in. I don't want to send this invite because they're going to be very confused. You'll enter the email. The email you enter here does not have to be their Arrow ID email. It can be any email that they can get email at. When they get this, they'll get an email saying you've been added to this lodge, claim your account. They will then sign in with their Arrow ID and use the code that was in the email. So it doesn't matter what email you use here. If you want them to have offline access, you click the offline access box and hit save. This creates a user, sends the invite to them. By default, new members do not have permissions in the database. They have permission to claim their account, and that's it. They can't see anything. So by default, they have no permissions. You will then set permissions. You go in, you can add all. This will grant them all the permissions. You can remove, and that's how you grant permission. If you only want them to be user, if you have somebody that's just managing users, you can grant them that permission. They now have permission to update users. I'll come back to how this area thing over here works. So we go back. It's automatically saved. If you're going to remove somebody, we no longer delete users from LodgeMaster. You deactivate their account. So you click on their active account here that says claimed. You hit deactivate. Yes, you're sure. Their account's now deactivated. They've lost access to LodgeMaster. If you need to invite that person back, hit inactive users, and you can find them in here. So if you deactivate them by mistake or something, or they come back, find them in here, hit reactivate. Are you sure? Back. That person is now reactivated. Deactivate them. They no longer have access. Down here it shows your invite sent. So we sent this invite. It's going to expire on the 14th. If they don't claim it by then, you'll have to resend invite. You hit resend invite and resend, and it sends them an invite. There is some reporting in here for login details in order to save time. We won't go over those, but it just shows the login history of when that account was logged in. You can edit permissions after somebody's already created with the edit permissions, and you can set their permissions or remove their permissions. Next, we're going to jump into settings. The first thing in settings you'll notice now is this lodge structure. So the whole idea of this was so you can set up your lodge organizational structure. So traditionally, we just had chapters. You had your lodge and you had chapters. Users had access to a chapter or the lodge, and that was it. They didn't have access to anything else. With this structure, it's going to allow us to create organization levels in the lodge. So you can see here in the last one, we added the vice chief of program. Under him, we had the vice chief of ice cream. This could be your vice chief of elections, vice chief of admin services, whatever your positions are. It's a way to organize them and build out the structure of your lodge. If you haven't got into this, the default for version 4 was lodge and chapters. To add to this, though, under lodge, if I want to add, we have chapters, but if I want to add event chairs, we'll set this as an organization and add. My event chairs are now there. If I have a winter event or winter events, add that as an organization, it's now under event chairs. So it creates like a hierarchy of organization in your lodge. You can move these around, so like this doesn't belong here. You can right click and hit move. Move it to, this is now under, I don't know, lodge. As a security thing, you have to put the name in, move. That's now moved out on its own. It's no longer a chapter underneath chapters. You can move them back. Permissions are then added to the lodge structure. So under the chapter, we have our lodge level permissions, lodge chief, lodge vice chief. Some of these we'd probably move, like that one. We could say this program goes under, I don't know, goes under this one, move. That's now moved. And then you can add positions, so adding an existing permission or existing position, we can add position. Save. That position is now connected to winter events in the lodge structure. You can deactivate parts of the structure. You can't delete them. So if you don't want this, actually, you can deactivate it. You sure you want to deactivate it? It deactivates everything under it. Hit yes. That's now deactivated. It's grayed out. I'm okay with that. And then, so you can use that to build out your lodge structure. You can add and move and deactivate. Anything you want to add, Mike, about lodge structure?
I don't think so. I mean, the big thing about it is it's meant to mimic your... The big thing about lodge structure is it's meant to mimic your lodge structure. So the idea is that you've got a lodge chief at the lodge level, and you may have vice chiefs under them, and they may have committees under them or chapters under them. The structure is meant to mimic that so that you'll end up with the ability to have a lodge and have 3 or 6 or 14 vice chiefs and committees or chapters under them. And then you can give access to that vice chief at the level they're at in the structure, and then they'd have access to all the committees or chapters or whatever comes under them. Or if you're broken out so that you have chapters broken into east or west and a leader vice chief for each of those, you can give access to the east area, and they'd get access to, let's say, the 3 chapters under that. So the idea of using the structure is to mimic how your organization chart, let's say, as a lodge works. Move that into LodgeMaster, and that allows you to do both permissioning, position reports, and all sorts of other information that looks like it would if you were operating your lodge.
And here's where it comes into the permissions right here. You can see we added this winter events. I can then give permissions. There's nothing under there, though, but for like West, I can grant, whoever I tie there, they have all the permissions for West. That's a chapter. They have West chapters. Diving back into settings, though, we won't spend a lot of time here because you have to have system admin rights to change anything in Lodge setup. That's typically to Lodge administrators, usually sometimes the Lodge advisor. Under the configuration, this is where the defaults are set for your Lodge and some basic settings. You set the default check-in mode. You can set your information here. Some defaults when you're adding. Down here, this default contact locations. This is in regards to where emails will be sent to. So by default, they just send to primary address. But if you also wanted to send to the parents, because kids don't check their email, we now are sending to parents as well as the kids. Down here, you set your annual dues amount. We also have membership start month and unit election start month. Mike, do you want to talk about those and how those affect Lodge reporting?
Sure. So the big thing about the membership year and unit election year is you really want to use that and match up how your dues year works and how your unit election works. So I'll use the example of my lodge. Our dues year is from January 1st to December 31st. And basically, that's when we collect dues, that's when you're paid for the year, et cetera. But our unit election year starts in October of each year. So it's actually 3 months before our membership year starts. So if you look in here, it's set to -3 for the unit election year. So our membership year starts on January 2018, but our unit election year starts on October 2017 for the year. So they start doing elections slightly before in the fall that our membership year starts. If you set those correctly, all the calculations for who's a candidate, who's a member, and how all the periods work will work correctly. So it's important to check those settings and make sure that your unit election year is mimicking what you're actually doing for unit elections. If we had left it at January, it wouldn't count those people elected in October to December as part of the unit election count for the year.
If you have questions with that or it's not making sense or it's not working, send us a support email and we'll look at it for you. So in here we also have districts. These all function the same with types. So we'll only go through some of them, but that's the main configuration page, which again you have to have system admin rights for to do anything we're talking about here. Districts, this is where you add districts. So you can add council districts in here. There's a merge functionality, which is new. So I want to merge Iowa into Lakeland. I also want to delete Iowa after I merge it because I don't want anybody to use it. I enter Iowa here because I'm going to merge it. Merge. Iowa is now gone. Anybody related had Iowa on their member record is now has Lakeland on their record. So you can clean up districts that way. Yes?
What happens if you have a district split and have to go one district and have to go another new district or chapter?
You will need to email us to do that.
So we can do some of that. We can do some of that automatically. We can split the chapters to repeat the question to everybody. We can do a split of a chapter or district to everybody, but it's not something that's automated in the system. And a lot of times it varies at what the rules are. It depends on towns, or it depends on units, or it depends on all sorts of things. There's no real way to build it, but we can do some work behind the scenes and make that happen.
Could you do it also by hand, one at a time?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So if you wanted to do it one by one, you definitely could.
Moving into events and members are the same. Address types, this is where we add, I don't know, you could add, work to. I don't know why you'd add that, but you can add address types. Contact types, though, this is the more popular one. So I want to add an email for father. You can add a father's email. That's now in there as a contact type that you can add data to. You can do this with phone and even a fax machine if you have a fax machine. Under events, location types we'll go to first. These are used with locations. Let's go, I don't know. You have a council office as a type. We then add a location. We set the location type to council office. You can, the only thing that's required is the name. You can fill out the rest of the information about details of where it's at. Hit save. We know my office now is a council office in LodgeMaster so that we can tie data to. We have the merge functionality in here, same as all the rest. So you can pick one, like, so right here's a very good example. We have two Fort AP Hills. Well, these are the same. This one, I don't know what happened here. So I'm going to merge this one into Fort AP Hill. You have to have the name. I want to delete the bad one because it's bad. Merge. We now have one. Everything's been cleaned up. This is a great example. That works across all of those, so we won't do many more of those. In this course, we're not going to cover ceremonies. That's in the advanced class tomorrow and Thursday. So at this point, we're going to leave settings, and we're going to move into Member Manager, the core of LodgeMaster, where every member is stored and where everything's driven off members in the system. Without members, LodgeMaster, it doesn't work. So this is the member grid. This is the default grid as you see now. If you're new into LodgeMaster, this is what you see when you log in. Your lodge, they won't customize this one because you load into roster, which is one we set for you. But in here, we have our basic information. This grid is 100% responsive. We can sort by unit number, sort by dues year, we can sort by chapter. We can filter down to a single chapter if I just want the council chapter, because I know there's one in there. Just shows the council. I want to go back. I'm now back to the entire grid. We want to add columns. We added that. We added father email for the dads, because if you have if you want to separate instead of just parent email, if you have mother and father email in there. There's our the father's email address for that scout or that arrowman, and you can now export that and send emails to him as well to make sure that Johnny gets to his ordeal on time. You can take that out of the grid by dragging it back. We do have these group panel. I want to group by chapter. They're grouped by chapter. I can then export this. You could do a grid report and export this. I don't want to group by that anymore. I pull it out of the grid. It's back in the grid. We do have this ice cream view that we saved in the other class. We move something around. If you move the columns around, I want this right there. You can save this in this view. You can add custom views. I'm going to add this one as test 2. Publicly editable, so this sets it so if anybody that has LodgeMaster access can edit it, or if only the creator. These dues years to include, I will point this out. So if it's relative, it's whatever year you're in. Fixed year, depending on what your query is, you'll want to set that. If you're looking for historical data and you set this to relative to current, it's going to mess up your grid. So make sure you set that to fixed or relative, depending on what you're doing. Save that. This is we moved youth over here for some reason. You can save that. So you can get creative with this. You can add just about every data type or every data field in LodgeMaster is in here. You just have to scroll through and find it. And you can add as many as you want to the grid. And take them out of the grid, and then report on that, and so forth. The next thing we're going to dive into now, actually adding a new arrowman.
Just so that one other thing to add under the advanced filtering, sort of to give you an idea of how a couple things work. There's a bunch of fields in the list of columns that are labeled event something or award something or training something. To activate those fields, you go into advanced filtering and you choose an event in here, and that's going to tie all of the event information for that event into the grid, and you can add whether people are registered or not registered right into the member grid and run reports or send emails or do anything based on that. You could also select an award, let's say, and add the award columns to the screen, and that would allow you to pull a list of who has an award or who doesn't have an award or anything like that, and pull dates that people got awards, anything like that. Same with training. You can do all sorts of reporting based on pulling that additional data in. The important thing to remember is you can only pull it in for one award or one event at a time, because there's only one set of columns in the grid.
Point out here, if you want to include multiple years, multiple dues years, this is where you'll do that. Include dues years. Select all, or select just the years you want to include, like that. It's going to include all those. Keep in mind when you do that, depending on the number of records, it could take a little bit to pull those in. Now we'll actually add someone to LodgeMaster. Hit the add button. The only thing required is first name and last name on here. Fill out as much as you want after that. And then you can put in, if they go by a nickname or something, their gender, date of birth, youth protection date. This does follow the BSA youth protection rules, so you can only, I'd only let you go back so far, because we are validating that field.
Question.
Yes.
Is there any chance of that linking to the BSA system, so you enter it once and it goes automatic and you update the file?
So this comes up.
Question everybody asks.
It comes up. It's later in the presentation, but we can jump to it now. Yes. So we will be adding the same functionality as the registration system to LodgeMaster, where it'll go out to ScoutNet, get your YPT date and verify your BSA ID. Put a little check mark there, same as NORS does. So yes, that is coming.
Yeah, so everybody saw that functionality in use for NOAC when they register. There was a little green check mark next to the name. That means it verified your BSA ID, and then it pulled in the YPT date. That was the only thing we were using for registration, but the BSA now has that logic ready, so we're going to basically add that and automatically do both the unit membership verification and also YPT automatically. So we're going to take that ugly process where you created a file and imported it into a wildly old interface in ScoutNet, and hope that it ran and spit back out a file, and we're going to turn that into just a button that says verify. That'll make everything a lot simpler and easier to use going forward.
Mm-hmm. We're really excited for that.
And just a plug, since we did in the last class, if you're interested about the strategy for what the BSA is doing with technology and also the APIs that we're using for this stuff, the CIO and the lead developer for the BSA are going to be here on site, and they're teaching 2 workshops in the afternoons. One's called the BSA's Technology Strategy, and one's called Using the BSA's APIs. Both of those classes are being taught literally by the people running the projects and also heading up all of technology for the BSA. So they should be pretty interesting, and you can get some interesting information out of it. And ask some questions if you want to, or feel free to complain about some of the systems they have right now. I know they hear it before, but it's always good for them to get feedback and see how they can improve things. So they're here on site, and they are accessible, and we've been really enjoying working with them now. It's a totally different group with the BSA, and it really makes a difference.
One thing to point out here, chapters, if we set this to council, it's not going to show any units. That's because units are now linked to chapters, so I have to select a chapter that actually has units linked to it to add somebody to that unit. The election date, if we put this in, this member is now a candidate in the system because we have an election date. If that's not in there, they're a non-member. You can add their address information, primary phone, and contact information. Black, gray shirt. Again, no more is required than first name, last name. We hit save. If you hit add another and hit save, it's going to relaunch this window. We don't want to add someone. To edit a member, the member we just added is not going to show up on this grid because they're not dues paid. This is only showing 2018. That person's a candidate. So to find them, we have to use the global search, which is the top search. We bring up their record. All of these sections are collapsible and responsive, so you can collapse all these down and just open the ones you want. We'll open this one back up. You can also jump to sections. If I want awards, I can jump to awards, and it brings up the awards right here that person's earned, so you can add one or just view it. But their basic information, again, you can change all this now that it's in here. You can enter their election date. You can enter any information they're adding in here. Contact information, we want to add email because we didn't do it now. We hit add email. The type, there's that type we added right there. But if this is their work account, put that in there. If it's their primary, you can add it as their primary and save that. And then if they have another one, you can just add a type. Save that. Since we set parent, you could set parent in Lodge config to be to auto get emails. That's where that would happen. You can mark email addresses as bad. You can hit bad. Turns it red because it's a bad email. You can also unsubscribe. If it's not a bad email, they just don't want to get emails, set to unsubscribe, it's also red. If we get an email back, when you send a mass email out, if we get emails kicked back for being bad, we automatically will set those flags for you. And then next time you send email, it just won't send to them. Phone numbers work the same way. Add a phone number, select the type. There's an example. You could merge unknown into something if you knew what it was. Or you could merge those 3 unknowns into one. Put a work number in. Their extension, again, you can set it as primary or do not contact and bad. It'll turn it red again and add it. And yeah.
show. I literally have to reboot the whole program.
So you can't see when you make changes. You're not seeing. It's not saving. That's because if you're using Internet Explorer, we have a known issue with caching. If you use Firefox, Edge, or Google Chrome, or Safari, that's fixed. We're working to resolve that issue. If you switch your browser, you'll see those. They are saving to the database. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah. Yep. So if you make changes, that's a good question. If you make changes and you're not seeing them here, if you add a phone and you don't see it here, but you refresh and it's there, use a different browser. If you're using any other browser except Internet Explorer, you won't get that. That's just an Internet Explorer thing.
You actually do. Like when you go in and you add a troop. When I use Chrome, mine will update all of these things that we're working with. But when you add a troop, I actually have to back out of the program and then come back into it before I can see that troop actually show up.
We'll take a look at that.
Nobody's reported that as of now, but we can take a look at that.
Yeah, we'll look at that and see what's going on.
Working on the Internet Explorer.
Yes, we're working on the Internet Explorer issue. We'll look at that. Okay. We get a lot of bugs, so I can't. It's hard for us to remember exactly what we got, but
I have a question.
yes.
If you get a bad
time zone one.
email,
Mhm.
Is there a way if it's a youth to get a CC to an adult involved so that we can track it and try to get that updated for you?
So you asked if there was a way to track if you get a bad email for a youth, if there's a way to copy a parent on.
If you're making the change, it bounces to you, right? And
Yes.
You said you go in and
Yes. So anybody with the email permission gets the emails back, and it tells you what email was bad. So you could then send them an email, or you could go in and find their parents' email and hey, this email is bad. Or if you have another email, email them, hey, that email was bad. Do you have another one? Or
Yes, anybody who has access to email manager will get those emails.
Yes.
okay.
Yep. If you don't get those, chances are you don't have email permissions in the system. One thing I'm going to point out is we do log everything. So anybody that makes changes, if you're wondering why somebody's email bounced and it's never bounced before, if you go in here and their email's been changed, you can see who did it and when, and then you could go ask them, why did you change this email, and you could track down issues. It's also just a good, log what happened, see who's making changes. We will be adding a back to top button so that you can jump to the top. We got to work out where we're going to fit that in. Over here on the right, we have access to quick information and quick tools. These fields are, you can see how quickly that updated. When you copy these are copy buttons, so then I can paste this in. There's that, brings up this record, so it does search really well. Here's our general information, contact information. These are copied. You can copy these as well. And that copies. You can pay dues right from here. Hit pay dues. This brings up our dues payment thing. You can select the years that these are being applied to, the date they're paying, the receipt number, the payment method. I like this one, pay with cash online. The amount paid. If it's an annual pass, you can set the annual pass. Chances are annual pass is more. We'll bump that up. This person has an annual pass. Hit save. Their dues are now paid. If we were to go to dues and pay 2019 dues, this is good. Let me go to the top. It's going to show their max due years is 2019. So that's how that works. They can pay ahead. You can also pay dues. When you're in the grid, there's this dues not paid filter. You can go in here. You can right-click, hit pay dues. Same exact window. This works in member or in events as well. Same settings. Yes.
I just want to point out something. I don't know. When we did our elections, we put in the candidates.
Yes.
A lot of times nobody went to that little calendar and stuff, and they put like 1/8 instead of 2001. It didn't show it all. So I just wanted to let everybody know that.
Yes. So formatting.
2018 in there, it's going to show up as 0018, and it's not going to show up as a.
Right. So formatting is key when you're importing. We do some. We do locations we will add, but formatting of data. He was asking about mentioned if you have a bad formatting in your import file and you upload that, it will get uploaded as is. And if it's a lot, you may need our help to fix that, depending on what the issue is. There is a right-click menu. We have this individual history report, and it brings up an individual history report for the user. You can right-click and get these. It's also up here. These are this right-click menus. You can edit and delete. That person's now gone. They're in here now. I deleted the member. They're in here. And that's how you move between statuses. If somebody, if you have to do that, if somebody passed away, you mark deceased, deceased. They're now in the deceased members. If they're not, if somehow you messed that up, you can restore them. You can permanently delete them. If you do this, we can't get it back. So I recommend leaving them in here. But if you actually delete it, it's gone. We can't recover that.
What about going in and cleaning up? We've got multiples where somebody got really wild with inputting things, and we end up with sometimes 2, 3 different records.
Yes.
Deactivate or move the stuff over.
So if you have multiple, so if you have multiple, if you run the import file a couple times, you had multiple, or they were elected multiple years. Currently, there's no clean way to, or there's no module or wizard to clean that up. We are working on adding something where you could go through and archive them all or delete them all. That is coming though. Right now, there's no bulk operation to do that. You didn't.
So it's okay to then go in. So say they were elected in 16 and now they're re-elected in 18. Just go in and change their election date.
Yes,
Or
you
should
can.
we-
You can. If all their information is the same, you could do that. Otherwise, you could. You could re-import them. You'd end up with duplicate records, though. We are working on some tools to make that better, though. That is kind of manual right now. So we're now going to go through the process of uploading members, because this is how you're going to get people. Chances are you're not going to type in 300 ordeal candidates. I would not want to. So we have this tool up here, import members. So all the columns for this are in our documentation. We're also going to be adding, it was from the first class, we're going to be adding an actual template file. Right now we just have columns, but we're going to be uploading a template file to there. So to import members, hit import members. We'll select the file. Hit upload. Columns in your file, where they're going. This column's named wrong, but I know this is going to go to home phone. This is going to, no, that's not going to go to home phone. I thought it was going to go to email address. The phone, we're going to put in mobile. If you had multiple phones in your import file, you could match them up. You can see we're not importing everything you can, but we're getting enough that we can do what we need to at this demo. Hit start import. This is pretty quick, so you need to import a lot. If there's any errors, dump them out here. This will not stop you from importing the same member twice, though, which kind of goes back to what you were talking about. If I were to redo this file, if I were to do this again, it would process those through. We're not doing any checking right now, so just be careful when you're doing imports. If it errors, it still imported the people, the new members. It just didn't do the ones it erred on. Keep that in mind. Yes?
Where are you getting the file to import?
So that will come from like a registration system or something you create from your election paperwork. She was asking.
It's going to have to be handed.
It's so you're going to have to, yeah, it's
Either something that's set up in an Excel spreadsheet, or if you have a registration system, to use data exported from that.
Yeah. So there is still some manual work, but it's much quicker to type in Excel than to go in here and add a new member and go through and fill all this out. This wasn't designed for that purpose.
So if you have an Excel file and it has different columns,
You can, what type of different columns?
say you have member email, mother and father email.
You can import those.
But you don't want to put all of
Oh, just don't map them over.
If you leave it blank on the right-hand side, it's gonna ignore that column.
Yeah. So if you're importing a file for our people listening at home, if you're importing a file, but you have columns in your spreadsheet, say you're tracking, if you're doing something in your spreadsheet you don't want in LodgeMaster, just don't map it in the field to import to, and it won't bring it into LodgeMaster. It'll ignore those.
So the fields don't have to match up.
No. I mean, certain things like email has to go to an email field and so forth, but all right. So then touch on some of the views over here. So we imported all of those. I think there was 500 of them. Our deal candidates elected. 671 of them. This is everyone that had an election date between, because we're set, this is what we talked about at the beginning, our membership start years October till September. So this is where it's crucial. Anybody that would say if we didn't have this set correctly, the default's January. Anybody that was elected in October is not going to be included in here, even though they're eligible. That's why it's important to have that flag set correctly. You could then export this data and use it elsewhere. We're going to actually use this, so I'm going to export this. There's that. You can't. There are other views in here. Brotherhood eligible. These are all. We build these for you. There's the Brotherhood eligible. Dues not paid. You could then export a list of people that are not paid and send them an email or harass them to pay. Load it in somewhere in a council system. We have these static reports, which are, as they say, static. Vital statistics. You can run these. And they're nice one-off reports about statistics in your lodge. We have several of them built in for you. You can run these if you're looking for resources. Looks like he has technology equipment, so call him for technology equipment. Yeah.
On the idea of candidates elected, the date you're using in there is your dues paying year, or your dues paying year calendar and that's your election?
This uses the election period. So we set the election period to October. That's what's used in this report right here. You can change it. It's kind of defeats the purpose of this predefined report. No, you could set it to whatever.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
You know, you could back this up. Actually, we're going to use this one for our thing. Export. You could export this. You can export all columns, but as it says, only do that if you absolutely have to. There's our file. You can import dues as well. I have a file that we will attempt this with. They all match up because my column names are the same. And there are no errors. Just like that, we paid 238 dues. Again, you'll have to have this data in a spreadsheet with their OLM ID or a BSA ID. We have to match on a unique key. Okay, finish.
That problem still arises, in other words, if you, that file.
Yeah, you have to have the file.
So you would have to isolate whatever didn't go in the
Yes.
time in
Yes.
a separate file.
That's correct.
Go ahead and import that file again, put it there, and see what the errors look like.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. So if you try to import it again, this one will because it's validating like this. And just like that, they all failed because already paid dues.
So it automatically tells you.
Yes, this one will because it's paying dues. So we're keying off of this ID, and so it knows that you can't pay dues for the same year twice.
Anybody on that list that they don't have yet, it'll import.
Yeah, so you could keep
Not worry about the other.
right. So you could keep like if you had some councils have an online payment system, you could keep running the same report and just import it because it's not going to pay a dues year again. Members it will though. Again, members it will. Okay, finish. We did this one in the morning one. These were already imported, but as you can see, it imported them again. Now these people are in here 3 times. Yes. That's exactly where we're headed. All right, so I exported. We have a file. So this is the export, what a grid export looks like. There's the key we need. If you're going to import anywhere else into LodgeMaster other than new members, you need the OLM ID or BSA ID. Most likely you don't have every single BSA ID. So for now, OLM ID is the way to go. All right, so we have our candidates imported. We're our vice chief of whatever elections. We've imported our candidates. Now we're going to send to events. So events. This is the event manager. We also have an attendee manager. So we're going to add an event. This is going to be Ordeal Demo 2. We'll set this as a fellowship. We'll set the location. Sure. You can set this as lodge-wide or a chapter-only event if you uncheck that. You can set that as a chapter event. The start date, we're going today. We're going to go out to there. You can set the options. There's a trading post there. We have training. We have service projects. We're doing all these ceremonies just like that. If you add another, it'll bring it up. You can add another event. All right, we have our demo here. We can set fees for the event. So you hit fees, and you can add fees. So if you have like a $50 ordeal fee, save. There's your ordeal fee of $50. You can change it. You can add those. So now we're going to go into our event, and we're going to go manage. This takes us to our attendee manager. So I'm going to go through the manual process of adding, and we'll go through the import. So we're going to use our fabulous support text profile here. He is attending this demo. We'll bring Dave in. You can see it pulls all of his information in, the date he registered, which is the day you're importing him, his role at the event. He's our gold pass. Youth protection date, if you don't have it, you can put it in there. Paid in full, this is where you set the fees. So if you had different fee levels, member, ordeal, whatever, you would set that here. Dave is a candidate, so this will actually work for this demo. We're paying his ordeal fee of $50. But
Dave get to NOAC if he's just a candidate?
I don't know. He's here illegally. I don't know. He's doing his ordeal today. He paid today. He paid with unknown money. He did bring his health form, so he is on top of it. And we will save that. We now have Dave at our event. To import, we're going to import attendees. We're going to select our import file, which we're going to go with this one.
That's the one we exported a couple minutes ago that was all the ordeal candidates. Right?
Yes, that's the one we exported with all the ordeal eligible, the elected, but they're eligible. We'll see how many are left. Oh, okay. Again, if we tried to import this again, just so you can see the errors. Here you have to have OLM ID or BSA ID. You can import all kinds of other fields there in the documentation, but you have to have at least this. Import, and it's not going to do it because they're already registered for the event. It's not going to register somebody twice. They are now all in here. Again, we have the same exact filters as member manager. Candidates checked in. No candidates checked in, but we have candidates. So, I don't know. I'm going to check Dave in. He's here at NOAC. He's checking in. This is our interactive check-in mode. I'll show simple next. Dave's is going to work, but I'm going to check him in. Dave's in. If I go back to candidates, I don't want this anymore. I just want the whole grid. This person, let's just check them in and not pay attention. We'll check in. Oh, we have an error. Many errors. Because their fees are not paid. They don't have their health form. They didn't do their youth protection. They're just all sorts of not doing what they're supposed to. Yes, they're checked in anyway. You hit no. You don't have to check them in. You can change this simple up here. Simple, you set the dates. in, out, in. There's no out for check. For interactive, there's no out button yet. That is coming. Candidates checked in. There's our candidates checked in. So these are our candidates. Now we want to send them through their ordeal, or through their call out. We have this wizard called a call out completion wizard. You can choose only those that are checked in. Say you load the list of everybody that registered before the event. Well, you only want those that checked in, because if they're not there, you don't want to run them through their call out. So we're only do the ones that are checked in. You could click this, show everyone. I only want those. Hit next, set their call out date. Do that today. It's irreversible. Okay, you could manually go in and clear that out. If you do a lot, that would take a while. You can print labels from any stage in these wizards. So if they did their ordeal, you want to send them a letter, print their label here. We'll hit close. There we go. We want to do our ordeal now. There's those 4. It's not going to show the others, though, because they're not checked in. They're checked in. Do next. You're doing your ordeal today, too. Paid for his ordeal, this way. Oops, that's for dues. You could pay their dues ahead if your lodge does that. They went way up next year. You can include service hours. They did 12 hours of service. Next. Again, can't be undone. This one would be harder to clean up. You can print their membership cards here. We are adding the 2018 printing after NOAC. You can print the 13 on 18, though. That does work. We have tested. You can print their membership cards. To print these, though, you'll want to download this as a PDF and open with your PDF reader and print. Printing from the browser, you may have mixed results with doing that, but there's that file it generates. Back in here, next, print again. As I said, it'll print labels, so you could send stuff to them. You could print or export. That's how that works. Hit next or close. Yes, I marked them as printed. Their dues are now paid. If we edit this person, we can see their ordeal as of this date, their brotherhood eligible on this date. Their profile is all filled in, nice and neat. Those wizards are really great because you could do, call it eligible. If everyone showed up and you just wanted to process these through as you could. You can also do service hours with a service hours wizard. It does the same thing. If you do it for a lot of records, though, it does take a little bit to run. Keep that in mind. This one's 143. It wouldn't take long. But if you're trying to do 1,000 plus, it could take a little while for it to, depending on how much you put in, because it's got to go to the database and do all those updates. Here's the pays due button in here. Same wizard as in members. Again, we have all the reporting, labels, static reports. You can do clans. This is not on today's, but you can run clan reports. This is an advanced feature. We'll do that tomorrow and Thursday. If you had Brotherhood eligible, which I don't think, we don't have anyone. The wizards for Brotherhood and Vigil do the exact same thing. So once you've run one of them, we don't need to run the others. You can save. Looks like dietary restrictions. That's not actually going to work, but that's a test one. So you could add one for dietary restrictions or whatever. Vigil, we do have Vigil, so again, every lodge is going to add these. You just add and can save those. This works the same as the member grid. You can remove people from an event with the delete button, and they're gone from the event. If we go back to the event list, you can do a closing report. We'll add that to the minutes. Somebody's going to get yelled at for that. I don't know how Dave got here. There's not in our closing report. You can, something I didn't mention before, but you can lock an event. So this is done. Dave attended our event. He wasn't supposed to. It's in the after action report. I can lock this. That attendance is not changing now. He's on that. We now know forever that Dave snuck into NOAC because he's not a member. You can delete. You have to type the name of the event just for security purposes so you don't accidentally delete something. Boom, it's gone. You can show all. This only it doesn't show all by default, but you can show them all and load all your reports. You can run reports from here, annual reports, service hours. We'll go first. There should be service hours for 17 in here. There's not. Well, if there were service hours, they'd show up on there. For our demo, it's not there. Next, we're going to talk about email. Sending email from LodgeMaster is completely new. It's powerful, works great. Better than the old system. Our editor's better, and we just handle email better. So if you want to send a custom contact types, you cannot send from the event manager. You have to send from member manager. If you want to send to like father email that we created, you have to do it from here. So anybody can send email or compose an email. You just can't, not everybody can send it. You have to have permission to send. So we enter our from address. This is coming from info@yourlodge.org. If you want to send immediately, you leave this blank. Immediately is as soon as the email manager approves it. Immediately means it's not just going to go out. But if I don't want to send this till, I don't know, August, 6th. Done. That'll send it August 6th if it's been approved. If it hasn't been approved, it's not going to go out. Yes?
That is a big issue within our lodge, at least with me. Why is that set up? Because what it seems like you're doing is you're forcing lodges or chapters to form their own Google groups to send out emails because of the restrictions that, and it's just a lodge thing.
Which restriction? I mean,
Well, the lodge has to approve the email. So people don't even want to do that. They're just going to form their own Google group and chapter advisor email approval.
yeah.
Yeah, if you give your chapter advisor email approval permissions at the chapter level, he'll also get those emails. And
Again, it's a lodge thing because
Yeah.
it's like they want that control, but yet they're missing because people are just circumventing the whole process by doing their own deal.
yeah, so
Yeah.
From a software perspective, the software is capable of handling that. So if you give a chapter advisor email approval permissions at his chapter level, he'll also get the approval email to approve a message and be able to approve that message himself. So that allows at any level in the structure, and that's why we built that multi-level structure. If you give your vice chief of chapters approval access, he'll be able to approve emails for all the chapters under him as well. So anywhere in that structure, you can give email approval access. They'll get the approval messages and be able to approve them.
We had a lodge officer send out an email to everyone in the lodge, berating them for not coming and prepping for conclave. And there were a lot of older members of the lodge who supported the lodge, had been in the lodge for a long time. They got berated for not coming and working at preparation.
And that's why we have the security controls in place.
Immediately, no longer can he do that for anybody else.
So moving on with our, so fill that out. We have this nice editor. If you're a programmer, there you go. If not, we have this nice little editor. You can add images, and we're just really excited. So we're going to throw that in there as well. And I want this big like that. Yes.
With the old editor,
Mhm.
if you had to do something and you didn't copy it out and save it, like copy to somewhere else, it would go away. Does that still happen with the new system?
No. We have a save button. Save, and it saves.
You can save it,
Yes.
but not send it out.
Right. Yep. I'm going to demo that right
It's
now.
all draft functionality.
Yep.
Oh, good.
So I want to attach.
That's always a problem.
Yeah. So I want to attach. I don't know. That's just too big to attach, but we're going to send that. Never do that. Don't send your import file out. So from here we have our nice big, email, because we're really excited that we're at NOAC. You can hit save and close, and this will go into the draft queue, or you can hit submit for approval. I'll do the draft. Submit for approval puts it in a queue, and your email managers get an invite saying there's an email pending, and they can go ahead and approve it. We'll save and close. This now goes into email. That's bad. Bad demo. Oh, did it? I didn't pay attention. There is a size limit. I guess I wasn't paying attention to that error, if there was one. I'm going to send it now. Well, we'll just put text in here. You can add images, just make sure they're within the size limit. There's an attachment limit as well, 2 megs.
Put a different attachment on.
Like a picture?
Yeah, or a PDF or something. Get rid of the CSV file. It's the wrong file.
Wrong file.
There we go. We're going to save and close that. Well, that was working this morning. Well, you should be able to save it as a draft and come here and edit it. We'll look at it, but I'll create one quick so we have one to. I want to go through the. It's not supposed to do that. Just keep that in mind.
It's not going to show.
If I submit for approval.
Yeah.
It did this morning. I don't know what happened there, but
What was that flash of thing that said one submitted?
there is a pending email.
Yeah, so that's just a notification that you can see how many pending emails there are.
Oh, okay.
It does show up in here. The one this morning did. I'm not sure
What you clicked on.
what happened, but they do show up in there, and you can approve and send it.
You don't have anybody to address to when you make it up.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it does default contact types. That should work, but there is a button in there to send and approve. I'll see after we're done here, question and answer. I can get that to work. I'm not sure what happened. Email is working today, though. So next, we're going to go into that's email. Yes.
When you send that out, how would you address it to?
I get what you're asking.
Chapters and instead of the whole lodge and stuff.
So I can't really.
It's whoever was visible in the grid when you hit send email.
Yeah.
Oh, so you
So you run your report or whatever.
Just had a chapter grid up,
Yeah.
it would only go to those chapters.
So you run your view or your filter or whatever to get the list of people in the grid that you want to send email to. And then you send email.
So it's going to send everybody on this grid. So if you filtered the grid down, you can also change it in Email Manager. It's just not coming up for whatever reason now. But you could change. There's a button on the right that says edit members or something. So units. We're going to look at units quick. This is where you add units. This functionality works just the same as adding a member or event. You hit add. Put in the type of council, 1, 2, 3. And then you can hit save, and it adds that in there. You can deactivate it or manage it and enter information about the unit. You can add contacts. We're going to fix this issue.
So you might use that council designation to designate those that are brought into the OA under council.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
do a district for each one of your districts.
Yes. So like
that are not
professionals.
associated with the unit. So
Right.
I'm a commissioner. I'm not associated with the unit, but I've got a district association.
That's exactly right. So if you're not affiliated with a unit, but you're like at the council level, if they're on the executive board or like the scout executive, you could tie them to your council. A lot of lodges have a council in here. That's their council number, and they just attach people there. Districts have a number in ScoutNet. You can put that number as a district number because you can add. You'd have to get that from your office, but you can add a district. Like my district 004, and then anybody associated with the district, you get tagged to that. What I was talking about before, though, Has to be tied to a chapter over here before it will show up on the member editor. Like if you selected council, you're not going to see crew 10 because it's associated with, well, you would now, but you wouldn't because it's associated with West. There's same reporting here. You can grid port, export, run labels, static reports, all the same. There's inactive. You can mark people as inactive. Go back to members. Again, we have the send email and the label functionality. This is production. That we are on production. I don't know why it's not working. Yes. Question.
Importing members from different lodges when they move them.
Mm-hmm.
And then just saying, how do you get the rest of the records?
So, great question. So if somebody moves to your council and you want to move their LodgeMaster records over, right now there's not a way to do that without you contacting the other lodge and like manually entering the information. At some point we'll work through adding like a move functionality between lodges. There's just a lot involved with that, permissions wise and making sure that it's okay, that lodge is agreeing to send them over to you and you accept and making all that work. It's on our list for the future, but for now it's manual. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right. Yes.
Will you be able to send them over even if they don't want them?
That's something we'll have to work through. Yes.
So, say like an event is locked, like say I have an ordeal and it's complete. So 10 months later, I want to set up like an email to send out 10 months later to remind them that they're eligible for Brotherhood. So how would you get through that process?
So what I would do, I would go to members. I would go to Brotherhood eligible, and then I would filter on the event. I'd put that event in here. And then you could add your columns to find them. And then, as we said, these are all Brotherhood eligible. If you did an email, it would send an email to all the Brotherhood eligible. You can also do it from the event. So even though that event's locked, you can still go in to manage, and you can go to Brotherhood eligible. You could send an email to Brotherhood eligible people.
Just adding the event to the filter, that seems to me so far like that just adds the event-related columns.
Yeah, you could then add the.
So you have to do something like search for the event name being not blank in order to make the list just be the people that went.
Yeah, you'll have to do some. That'll be more covered in the advanced filtering to get some of that advanced like filtering to work, but you can do it. Other questions?
Going back to the, what was it, member view, the ordeal candidates when they came in, I think is what I'm looking for.
Yes.
We've been doing sort of a backdoor way. Our election period is middle of January through May 1st. Sometimes we may pick up some at camp, but we're trying to get away from that. But when we hold our spring event, that's the beginning of May, and there's a fall powwow in August, if we let it, we're going in and manually putting in a date, like May 19th is the one that we use, but you had that filtering process on that start date and end date, and you had the plus and minus thing. How would we make that work for that? I'm trying to figure it out in my head, but the lodge advisor's given me, a specific date, but I can see that as being able to start calculating dues and stuff for when we need to pick up for the end of the year and moving in. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Because we're off.
So you're prorating, I would say, are you?
Yeah, so we'll pick up, so like, if they get called out here in, June, and they decide to go to the fall powwow in August, then we prorate the dues from August to December, and then we charge for the next year, so that the ordeals, we pick them up all the way through.
You would just pay their dues as normal in that case.
Okay, but you were talking about how to get the dues correct. Well,
I
what it
mean-
was is it's not the dues. It's allowing us to find the candidates that would normally drop through.
Yeah, you'd want to
on
set.
ordeals.
I
So,
would.
like,
You'd want to set this date right here.
That's a date
Because
range,
if you
and
had
usually
somebody in January that was called out in January, and we have the May, and we have the fall, so their election was in January, they're called out in June, they can't make the August, so it goes past their date, so it shows them as ineligible now because they've
Oh, 'cause it's been a
exceeded their
year? Oh.
And then they show up in May and do that, so how do we
They
work?
have to get elected again.
Yeah. So
So that's where we're going in because we don't offer it soon enough because they only get one.
So
time
LodgeMaster
instead of
doesn't-
Twice.
you could. It'd be an
So you set
advanced.
the date.
It'd be an advanced filter to get that. The OA requires them to be elected after a year or
Right.
re-elected. So we don't have like a built-in view or anything for that, just because that's not the intended way to do it.
Right.
You'd have to build an advanced filter. We can, yeah, yeah. It's doable. It's just it'd be a saved advanced view that we would do. Let me. Any other questions? Mm-hmm.
You have the thing along the bottom, all the pages and stuff.
Yes.
I know, when you go to another page and you come back, especially if you're editing a memo, does it always have to go back to the top of the list?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's how the
to me-
grid
to me
works.
Also, if I had the power, I would just get rid of that whole lot. And just have a one continuous, I know it's
I mean,
a lot of scrolling.
Yeah, you could set it to 1,000 every time you go into it.
Yeah, but then
once you
remember and come back, it's gonna go back to 100.
right. So like that saves. Are you talking like when you leave the program, like go to another module?
Probably, yeah.
Oops.
I think you cancel out.
I think when I do it, actually, even when I edit a member.
Shouldn't do that. It should stay on the same page, so we can
Should stay on
certainly
the
look
same
on that.
page.
Yeah.
Anything to
Oh,
do with
let me-
Internet Explorer, maybe?
I don't know. We can certainly look at it with you after.
Yeah, we'll make note of that and look at it. So that does stay. I think it's it must be when you. Yes, when you leave a field. Yeah. I do have an example of the email quick. I have one working. So we created this email in the same process. It does come in here as a draft. Somebody asked about the draft. You can edit and review it then and make any changes. And this is where you could change the recipients that it's going to and add an attachment. And then you could submit for approval. And now it's awaiting approval. And then the Lodge email manager could go in and actually approve and send it. Or they can delete it.
Oh, and the address you put up there, it's always something at your lodge name.
No, that can be,
Is that something you set up in settings? Or?
no, it's whatever you want it to be. A lot of lodges have like an info at, whatever you want it to be. We don't care.
How do you set that up?
How do you set like,
As an email address?
you'd need to like have a domain and talk to your your lodge IT staff to set up a custom domain. Otherwise, you can put your email in here.
They have one, I just don't know.
Okay. Yep.
And you can restrict the permissions for the chapter advisors, would just have permission for their chapter.
Yes. Yes. Final. So where we're going, some things, we touched on some of these. We are going to be fixing a number of bugs that are in version 4 from the initial release and adding some small features. The notable ones, we're adding the charter and JTE for 2018. That'll be coming out this fall. Inventory and finance will be coming out this fall as well. They're currently in version 3. And they link to the new system. Those will be rewritten into version 4. And the membership verification and YPT verification that we talked about, that'll be added in as well later this year. We're adding a unit elections portal, so it'll be a total unit election management. So units can schedule elections online. You can upload new elected candidates online. That'll all be done through an online portal coming later this year. So it'll be total election management and an online self-service for that. We also have an online member portal coming where you'll be able to update your profile. You'll be able to set communication preferences, register for national events, see when you're eligible for events, pay your dues. So we talked about having to have that dues file that you import. We're going to have a function built into the portal where they'll be able to log in to their LodgeMaster portal, pay their dues, and they'll sync right into LodgeMaster. No more uploading files, Excel files. So that's coming. We do offer a variety of support. So you can go to our support center, and we have documentation there. We're working on it. If anybody likes writing technical documentation, let us know. We'd love to have you help. If you have questions, you can email us, support@lodgemaster.oa-bsa.org. We ask questions of the forum. We have a new feature request site coming later this year. We'll be able to vote on issues, things you want to see added to LodgeMaster. You'll be able to vote on it. If you think it's a bad idea, you'll be able to vote it down, and then we'll take that into consideration when we're looking at new features to add. We have a user group that you can subscribe to emails at lodgemaster.oa-bsa.org. And you can get our user group emails. We're going to be switching to a new platform really soon, so emails will look a lot nicer, and it'll be an easier to use platform for us. We're going to do some additional webinars as well. We did one earlier this summer. We're switching to a new platform. We're going to be doing probably one a month for the next few months, I would say, potentially more, and they'll be specific things. So look for that information. If you want to hear about those, if you want the resources from today's session, subscribe to our email list at lodgemaster.oa-bsa.org. On the bottom right, if you hit join this email list, that's how you'll get on the list, and we'll get you added. With that, if somebody could hit the lights, please. Thank you.
Before Chad plays this, the National Order of the Arrow Committee held an event last year called Hackathon. It's a new type of event for the Order of the Arrow focused on technology and people in the Order of the Arrow who are interested in technology, allowing them to come together, work on ideas to build new projects, new apps, new concepts for technology in the Order of the Arrow. We're going to be holding that event again in 2019. More information will be coming out this fall, but there's just a short teaser video to get everybody into it.
They connected the... 1 second. Yeah, well...
Last year, the event was held at on the campus of Intel, and a number of Intel employees actually supported the event, worked with the kids, helped them on projects and stuff. So it was a really exciting event for those who attended. So when more information comes out next year about that, you'll be able to get more information, and we definitely encourage you to go either yourself or bring scouts. It was a really great event, and everybody who went got a lot out of it. So.
So we can flip the lights back on for us. This is just playing for our live folks at home. Any other questions about LodgeMaster? We're here. If you have a specific question, you can talk to us afterwards. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We do have an advanced class Wednesday and Thursday where we'll dive into the things we didn't cover.
It's located just down the hall from here in 101, 8:30 to 11:30. So if you can come, we'd love to have you.
Otherwise, thank you. Questions, let us know.